Today's topic of discussion is purpose. So this is going to be one of my most important videos created on this channel. So a man's purpose comes before everything in life. It comes before family, comes before friends, it comes before your wife, your children, and everybody. It's something which is non-negotiable. So I've created videos previously related to purpose, so I'm going to be diving into it more in depth in this video. So first point is work. Now for everybody who's watching this video, each of you as men are going to be working. You're going to be working whether it's self-employed or you're working for a corporation. Either way, you're somebody who's actively working towards goals and objectives. Now, there's going to be times, right, where you're not going to be prioritizing your purpose and you're going to be spending time on leisure and distractions. Now, with that, right, it shouldn't be more than 5-10%. The rest of the time, you guys should be grinding day in, day out. Now this right here will give you the most fulfillment in life. Because you as a man, you've been created to provide value to society. It's not a situation where when it comes to, let's say, a relationship, a woman's goal and objective is to try and lock you down in a relationship. Because if your purpose is to try and get her, then that relationship isn't going to last long. You know, a man's goal and objective is to prioritize God-given purpose, and then a woman's objective is to try and lock down that man of value. But obviously, you've got today's society where indoctrination of feminism, men and women competing against each other, they both hate each other, and so on. Right now in today's society, there's a gender war that's taking place. You know, you guys here are going to need to block out all that noise. You know, because the system wants people to stay distracted. Keep these guys arguing with one another. Don't let men focus on their purpose and mission. And just keep them astray. That's why you see a bunch of relationships breaking down in today's society. It's because men aren't focused on their purpose and mission. You know, if you look at, for example, social media, Instagram, you got a bunch of these weak beta males commenting on people's videos all day long. Just talking rubbish for days and weeks at a time. You know, if only these guys here were to actually use that energy towards productive things, they'd actually make something of themselves. They'd actually be satisfied in their lives. The reason why they've got so much hatred and so much anger is because they're not using that energy on their purpose. So when you're using that towards working, and this doesn't just apply to just regular 9-to-5 work or just self-employment. When I'm talking about work, it's related to everything in life. So the 4 arenas, so mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That right there is going to be able to yield the best possible results. Because there's certain people out there who are, let's say, overweight, they're bent out of shape, but they're just working non-stop. But their health is getting deteriorated as a result of that. You know, that right there is just short-term thinking. It's not thinking in the long term. Because in the long term, if you prioritize your health, you're going to be able to get better quality years. Now, your life is in the hands of God, but in terms of quality, it's always better to be fit and healthy rather than just being bent out of shape, sluggish. So next point is chess. Life is like a game of chess, moving one piece at a time. You know, when it comes to the day-to-day life, the more you try and operate at 100 miles per hour and you try and get everything done and you try and push as hard as possible, the quicker you're going to burn out. But if you make small and steady gradual change, improving 1% each day, you're going to be able to form solid, disciplined habits. So let's say people who are trying to get in shape. Instead of saying to yourself, oh, I'm going to go to the gym 5-6 days in a week, start off with once in a week. Make it a day where you're free. So let's say you're free on a Saturday. For 1 hour of your Saturday, you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to go to the gym from 2 to 3. Now, in that session there, you may only train a few of your body parts, but you've made such a massive step in the right direction because the week before that, you wasn't training at all. Because I know certain guys, right, who train several times during the week for months, and then a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, they just stop training. They eventually burn themselves out because they didn't actually switch their mindset towards actually focusing on overall well-being rather than just aesthetic look. And when it comes to, let's say, relationships, there's certain times, right, where you've got your queen. The queen needs to be sacrificed in order to continue playing the game. And now, what does that sacrifice come as a result of? When you're actually locked in on your purpose. Certain times, these guys will let a woman get in front of their purpose. And when you allow a woman to get in front of your purpose, you're going to lose your purpose and the woman. You're going to lose both of them. But you can never lose your purpose. Because that right there is going to create the solid foundation. Because that's what God has created you to be, to focus on your purpose and to focus on being a man of value. Now, sometimes a woman will try and take you away from that. She may even try and gaslight you guys and say, oh, you spend too much time on work, you spend too much time on doing that. Now you gotta tell her straight, look, if you're gonna be a part of my life, it's either you're gonna provide value or you're not gonna provide value. If you don't want to provide value to this relationship, you're not trying to help me on my purpose, then it's better me and you are not in a relationship. Certain guys are just too scared to say that to a woman. Eventually a woman loses her respect for that guy because she realizes this guy here isn't willing to let me go. Women are like birds. They just fly around whenever they feel like it, and they'll sit down whenever they feel like it. If you try and cage them in a flipping prison and try and force them to do stuff, the more that they're going to want to rebel against you guys. But if you create an environment where the bird is able to roam around and actually be with you, then that creates a healthy relationship. But it goes back to it. Certain times a woman needs to get sacrificed in order to continue working on your purpose. Now, there's an authentic hadith about this as well, which relates to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, his 9 wives were giving him grief. They were being disobedient. And then they were trying to stop him working on his purpose. And then what he did was he isolated himself for a whole 30 days. So then he came back on the 29th day. And then Aisha, she asked him, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but she said, you've still got one more day of seclusion. So then each of the wives were asked, would you like to stay with Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And then they all said yes. But that's what it is when it comes to giving a woman an ultimatum. If she doesn't want to cooperate with you guys, your only option is to just remove her. So that leads us to the next point when it comes to women. There's certain guys, they're in that mindset, the system has brainwashed them to think, don't focus on women. You don't need women. Why are you always talking about women? Now, a lot of these guys, right, have been deprived of attention from women. They don't understand purpose and mission. So, purpose and mission comes first in life. But to be able to have a family and children, you need a woman. Or are these guys just so asleep? They're just completely oblivious to that. These type of guys who are saying, you don't need a woman, don't focus on women, just ignore women, this and that. Them type of guys, they're not even focused on their purpose anyway. They're flipping jerking off to X-rated content. They're not grinding day in, day out. They've got all this bitterness towards women. Now, a woman can sense your energy, what type of man you are, if you've got hatred and bitterness towards women. Now, myself, I love women. You understand? in plain words, I love women. And I know guys who are watching this love women as well. It's not going to be something which is going to be put off. You can't suppress your feelings towards the opposite gender. So these guys here, right, as I said, you don't want to take it to the other extreme where you just don't want to even talk to women. You don't even want to associate with them. You just don't want to give them any attention and none of that. You don't want to move to that extreme, because then you're just going to become cold and distant. So if the right woman comes along and then she ticks your requirements, she's providing value to your life, you can see potential in her, then that's somebody who you can talk to for marriage purposes. But the rest of them, the ones who are masculine, annoying, they're just trying to waste your time. Keep those women at arm's length and ignore those women. So, final point is God. It all links back to God. As long as you're pleasing God, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. Some people are going to come along, they're going to try and criticize you, they're going to try and patronize you, they're going to try and say you're just so focused on doing your own thing. Now, if these guys here were to actually use that time towards investing into themselves, they'd actually have healthier relationships. They'd have stronger values. Because that's what's missing in today's society. Traditional moral values. Now, you guys here are going to need to choose your battle. Are you going to be somebody who's fighting against evil and atrocities in the world? Or are you going to be somebody who joins the system? Now, the system is there to control people. So you're either fighting with good or you're fighting against evil. So when you're fighting with good people and a good cause, you're going to win in this life and the next life. If you're choosing to stay silent, choosing to not fight against evil in the world and your own temptations and desires, you're going to lose in this life and the next life. So that's what it is. You guys here are going to need to choose your battle. Now, myself, I'm somebody who would rather fight against evil. Because evil people in the world, there's too many of them. There's not enough good people left in the world, unfortunately. But that's going to be the minority of people. There's going to be a minority of good people who are genuine people who are trying to make a difference to the world. Majority of people are either going to stay silent or they're going to be contributing towards the evil. Now, both of those two examples there I gave about staying silent and then contributing towards evil, they're just as bad as each other. Reason being is because, let's say for example, you're walking down the street and then you see a woman, she's getting abused by a guy. And you can see full well she's saying, oh, help, help. And you're just there, just watch it. And you choose to ignore that and you just walk past it. That right there is really bad. That shows that you're a coward. You ain't got no bravery within you. So the very least you could do is speak it verbally and tell the guy stop. Now if the guy doesn't want to stop, chances are he will anyway. When he hears other people telling him, oh, X, Y, Z, and then he's gaining attention on him, he's going to likely stop. But if he doesn't, then it can lead to a physical altercation. Now, there's authentic hadiths which mentions about a person who dies as a shaheed. So a shaheed is somebody who dies in the cause of God. That right there, that person gets ultimate ranking in paradise. So if the guy, for example, stabs you, or if you shoots you, or whatever the case is, you know full well that you was doing a noble act and you died for a noble cause. So that goes back to God-given purpose. Because you prioritize your purpose and mission. So just to wrap up, work. You guys are going to need to be grinding day in, day out. Small baby steps every single day. Start to remove your bad habits and replace them with good ones. Because some of you guys maybe, let's say, drinking, smoking. You guys are going to need to replace that with something healthier. Something which is going to be a healthy alternative. The way to replace a bad habit is to replace it with something which is a good one. Next point after that was chess. So that's what life is all about. It's like one big chess game. So in life, right, you could start off as, let's say, a pawn, which is the lowest ranking. Then you can become, let's say, a knight, then a bishop, then rook, can't even remember the name of it, and then queen, king. I ain't even played chess in a little while, forgotten the name of the pieces. But that's what it is in life. You start off as the ranking. So from the lowest ranking and then just goes up. Now some guys, right, especially young people nowadays, they just want to jump the ranks. They think that, oh yeah, I want to be surrounded with the big players. These guys here are just living in delusion land. The way to climb the rankings in life and to associate with other men of value is for you to actually provide value yourself. You're going to need to bring value to the table. And next point after that was women. So myself, I love women. Guys who are watching this, the men of value, you guys love women as well. So don't suppress your natural instincts. Because that's what the system's going to come along and do. It's going to be like, oh yeah, ignore women, don't give them no attention. Now, There's certain good quality women, you should speak to them for marriage purposes. The ones who are low quality, and you guys here should know what low quality women are. If you don't know, have a watch out all my other videos. Because then you guys here are going to need to be able to spot women who are promiscuous. And you disregard them. The final point after that was God. So when you're pleasing God, you're somebody who is providing value to society. You've got obedient women. You've got family, children. And you're somebody who is purpose driven. That right there is going to give you the most fulfillment as a man. Because if you was to do the opposite, and if you was to chase women, women are going to just run away from you guys. And the ones who are going back and forth with you, they're going to be low quality women anyway. Because high quality women, they're looking for men of value. The ones who you see, the women that you guys see that are low quality, with low quality guys, those are the women you're not going to be interested in anyway. So don't get into that mindset and start to become jealous and envious of other beta males. Because these guys here, right, are with low quality women. You know, that's why these women are in dirty haram relationships, boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. Because that's what they deserve. They deserve that status. The status above that is husband and wife. You know, so that right there, as I said, there's the Islamic marriage, which is a nikah. So the UK doesn't consider that as a government marriage. So that right there is pleasing to God. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.